Anybody who comes from Punjab, उसको पता है कि हमारा final destination Canada ही होता है. 2010 में when I started my first company, I told my dad कि यार मेरे को business शुरू करना है, and he said हाँ कि मैं कपड़े का काम करता हूँ, तो तू भी आजा दुकान पे. So we met the Sequoia capital team and they said कि we will invest $4 million in you. तो फटाफट से मोबाइल निकाल के देखा डॉलर INR कितना हो गया. हमें 6 बजे कॉल आता था क्योंकि जब भी कोई रेस्टरूम से बाहर आता था तभी दर्द होता था. तो 6 बजे कॉल आता था एंड हमारे लिए पीक आवर्स होता था. इफ वी कैन टेक द कॉल एट 6 o'clock, वी विल लिव.
Can we have a huge round of applause? I think in my very fortunate experience of hosting a bunch of founders, I've fondly remembered my chat with Harsh because it was very, 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 very insightful and more importantly, real. So there's no, drama that you're going to, no sugar-coated comments that you'll probably hear today. And we're going to go through a bumpy ride of startups and a lot of experiences that Harsh has gone through to eventually build what we see the final version of. And I think it'll be good to start there, Harsh.
It's not the final version.
Yeah, that's just getting started.
As an entrepreneur, you are reiterating and improving every day. So if we have reached the final version, you are dead. So don't do that.
Yes, I stand corrected there. But I think what really inspires me, or for the lack of a better word, inspires me is the fact that you had 3 journeys after which you were at a point where you said that I would do anything but startup.
Yeah.
Right? So you come back from college and you start 3 companies, 5 years, none of them work. Talk to us about that time, and I think hitting the nail right on and starting with that.
How many of you are, I think Pratham tells me, everybody is doing something, like everybody is starting on something? Is that true? Is there anybody who's not? Okay, awesome. How many of you are on your second idea or third idea or fourth idea? Okay, great. I'm one of you. It takes time. We are very slow. So please bear with us. It took me probably 3.5, 4 ideas to, maybe start Pristyn. And second question, what's the average age in the room? Under 25? Anybody, how many under 25? And 25 to 30? Okay, got it. So we are between 23, 28, 29. Okay, got it. Okay. So the question was?
The 3 failed journeys.
3 failed journeys. I think the start of the question was, why did I decide not to ever start up, I think?
Yeah,
after the 3 failed journeys. And the second question was, why did I start again?
Yeah.
I think, just the crux of the question, and one of the things when we were walking up this aisle, why do you ever start a company? Why do you ever start a company? If you manage to answer that question, you have failed already. Have you ever asked yourself, why do you, why do you like a particular cuisine? Have you ever asked yourself that why do I like, aloo ka paratha or a butter chicken or something? Have you ever asked yourself? You don't. The reason you don't is because that's the, we have left and right sides of the brain. We are over analytical. मैंने देखा बाहर सारे rooms के नाम भी ARR और Kagger, इतना ज़्यादा मतलब इतना overload of, Pratham, you should simplify those names. They are too complicated. Business is not those terms. Business is very, very simple if you inherently believe in it. But we don't ask ourselves that why do we like to do certain things. And so never ever start a company if you have to answer this question. I started my first company in 2010 and we were chatting not very far from where Pratham was. I was on Walnut Street in Philly and I was interning with a company called Locust Walk. So Locust Walk is a very famous street inside the Wharton campus. So they have these names of some of the most famous, I would say, gentlemen and ladies who have done really well in their lives, and they come from Wharton. So my co-founder at Locust Walk was Duke. I'm from Duke. So Duke and Wharton alum. And so I was interning with him and he helped me get a job in the Valley. I was, I think, 22, turbaned, and this is 2008-9 financial crisis. And they said, and I thought I would wanted to be an investment banker. And they said investment banker 6.5 feet से ऊपर होता है. white होता है and drop dead handsome होता है. You are none of these. So you will never get there. And I didn't understand that. I was like, okay, cool, no problem. But made an effort, kept trying, and finally found this internship, and that led to my placement in a company called Viant Group. So Viant Group was an investment bank started by ex-Goldman folks, I think, and they were doing some cloud computing deals, which was very new that time. So Google ne, I think, a company kharida tha called Cloudterra, if I can remember, and this is like 12, 13 years ago. That was really the first time cloud computing had started to come in. AWS was not the, it is very common for each one of you to think a server chahiye, chalo AWS ke paas. 2008 mein aise nahi hota tha. So a lot of things were happening. I interned with them for another 2 months, and the only thing I did was every day I would have a coffee and I would have a laptop and I would be sitting on Word document files. And I was like, zindagi mein kuch bhi kar sakte hain, ye nahi kar sakta. So I was supposed to join full time in the same firm in July, and I went up to my manager and asked, okay, what will be my work? What will it change when you start paying me more dollars than you pay me today? They said कि काम यही होएगा, बस आपकी रिपोर्ट जो होएगी वो अभी कोई नहीं पढ़ता, then somebody will read it. I was like, okay, that tells you the importance of my work. And during the same time, I was living with a friend who heads our technology now. He was at University of Southern California doing some work and was interning in Abbott. So Abbott had given him a very fancy place outside in Orange County, outside Disneyland. So that was the charm. और वो पैसे भी वही देते थे, वरना it was so expensive. So we used to live there free, and I used to do this internship with them, and used to go to the office sometimes in the valley, come back and do that. And during that little time, I was talking to a friend back in Delhi, and we were chatting up day in day out कि यार क्या करना है जिंदगी में, ये सब तो बहुत बोरिंग है. And we hopped onto an idea called fuel cell. So वो chemistry में पढ़ाते हैं ना स्कूल में, एनोड कैथोड और ऐसे कनेक्ट होता है. So that's the simplest version of fuel cell. We got so excited, we thought we'll come back to India and start a fuel cell company in 2010. During the same time, we were talking to this gentleman in Canada, and he said कि I have developed water car. तो वो बोल रहा है कि H2O को, and pardon my chemistry now, but H2O को on क्या बोलते हैं, चेसी में स्टोर करेंगे और इलेक्ट्रोलिसिस करेंगे, H2O को तोड़ेंगे, H2 and O2 निकलेगा, और उससे हम हाइड्रोजन से कार पावर करेंगे, and that will be our journey. So we thought कि that's the future, that's the EV for us. It didn't work, of course. That gentleman, by the sad stories, that gentleman got prisoned by some of the car companies. And this is not a new story, some of you might have heard it. In 2010, what we see of EV today, in 2010, there were all these big car companies, General Motors, Chrysler, and all these guys. They made electric vehicles, they sold them, and then I think within the space of 2 months, they collected all the vehicles and trashed them. Because when they made those vehicles, they were so good and efficient that all the OPEC companies, the oil companies, and all the lobbies, the US government forced them to either shut their companies or take the EVs out of the market. And this is before Tesla. So during the same time, this gentleman in Canada was doing this, and we found him on the internet, like typical, just searching and stuff like that. And we talked to him, he was so excited. So that failed. But anyways, nothing started, we came back to India. That journey failed, and we ended up starting Bijli Ki Chori Ki company, electricity theft detection. India has $25 billion of electricity theft detection. उसके बाद हमने एक watch Magic Pin does today, we started that. So very similar, mobile app, location based, hyper local discounts. 2012 में ऐप कॉमन नहीं था, लोकेशन बेस्ड कॉमन नहीं था, हाइपर लोकल कॉमन नहीं था. आपको the only 2013 December में Flipkart, Zomato launched their app. So we were even before them. So that failed, and then I started a food delivery company in 2014 towards the end. Swiggy had started out of Bangalore, and we started out of Delhi NCR, especially Lajpat Nagar to be precise. तो हम लोग मूलचंद मेट्रो स्टेशन के बाहर पैम्फलेट बेचते थे और सबको बोलते थे कुछ भी ऑर्डर करना है तो हमें फ़ोन करना है एंड वी विल डिलीवर. आई यूज्ड टू डिलीवर द पैम्फलेट्स माई सेल्फ. शाम को 5 बजे मेट्रो का रश होता था, 5 से 6 पैम्फलेट मारते थे. दिन में घरों में जाके वी यूज्ड टू ड्रॉप द पैम्फलेट्स एंड पीपल शुड गिव अस अ कॉल. एनीबडी हियर फ्रॉम वो कौन सा है, अमर कॉलोनी? एनीबडी फ्रॉम अमर कॉलोनी? अमर कॉलोनीज, यू वुड नो अमर कॉलोनी में द मोमोज, राइट? हाँ, हंगर स्ट्राइक. Hunger strike was our best friend. We used to get 30 orders a day just for momos. So, and that failed again. We went up to 30 orders, 35 orders a day, and I used to be one of the delivery partners. So I used to do the deliveries, and one of my friends used to delivery, and my second co-founder used to sit on the call center. We did not have an app that time. So that failed again, and Swiggy became Swiggy. It didn't work out. 5 साल के बाद सब कुछ करने के बाद लगा अपनी औकात तो नहीं है, तो नहीं होगा. And I think my mom asked me, what is the next thing you're going to do in life? I was like, kuch bhi kar sakta, I'm not going to start a company ever. Again, I don't know the reason. You asked me the reason, I don't know the reason. It just didn't come from within. And I think that's as honest as I can be. I went on the internet, looked up all the companies which had raised any capital, only startups. I wrote to Urban Company and 3 other companies, I'll not tell their names. But Urban Company, I wrote the email, and Abhiraj, one of the co-founders there, he responded to me and he said, why don't you come and see us? And I was very excited कि यार पहली बार किसी ने ज़िंदगी में job, I had 0 job experience, think about it, only internships and 5 years of failed startup. I went to their office, तो मैंने एक ही चीज़ पढ़ी थी, वो बोल रहे थे कि यार, I said, how do you do an interview with a startup founder who has raised $12 million at a valuation of 100 million? And who was an ex-BCG and he was a consultant. So I was like, how do you interview to this guy? तो मैंने उनसे पूछा कि उसमें इंटरव्यू में लिखा हुआ था, you should ask the founder, why did you start the company? The same question you asked me.
Same source.
Same source. So उन्होंने इंटरव्यू ले लिया मेरा. तो मैंने, they said, any questions? I had only one question. I said, why did you start a company? And he gave me the same answer. कुछ और समझ ही नहीं आ रहा था करने के लिए. And but then he, Abhiraj is very articulate. He's a South Bombay guy, super posh, and he gave me a good ये answer के बाद थोड़ा अच्छा answer दिया उन्होंने. And then the second co-founder, Varun is from Hyderabad, and मैंने वरुण से पूछा आपने क्यों शुरू किया? And he said same ही है. So that's my first interview, and I think I came home and I was the office is right here, not far, Udyog Vihar. And there was a bus which used to run there. It used to take us to MG Road metro station, and वहाँ से you go to. I used to live in Green Park, so I went to MG Road metro station, and they give me a call and said, "We're going to pay you. I'll not tell you the salary. We're going to pay you." I was touching, I think 29 that time, 28 something, 28, yeah. And said, "We'll pay you X lakhs of salary, and we will give you some ESOPs." I couldn't believe what I heard. I never negotiated. I had no clue. I actually never believed somebody will pay me a salary, because you had, from a guy at 22, somebody gives you $100,000 salary and then to nothing over the next 7, 8 years, 5, 6 years. Somebody offers you a salary, it changes your world. And but I didn't join. They said, I think it was Thursday or Friday. They said Monday को join कर लेना. मैंने यार 3 दिन में ज्वाइन करेंगे. हाँ हमारे पास तो बहुत ओपनिंग है, आप मंडे को आ जाना. एंड Sunday night I called them. I said, my grandmother is unwell, and this is a real story. She was hearty and healthy, God bless her soul. She passed away in 93, 6 months ago. I said, my grandmother is slightly unwell. I couldn't think of a better excuse. Give me some time. I'll join in probably next week. Didn't join them a week. I went back to US, borrowed some money, traveled from US to Canada on foot. Every Pratham I think moved out. Anybody who comes from Punjab, उसको पता है कि हमारा final destination Canada ही होता है. So I went to US. My sister stays there. Took some money from her, went to Canada, traveled for 3 months on borrowed money, Airbnbs of the world. Came back to join Urban Company once again, because I couldn't find any other reason than not to be in India, the most fascinating place. So came back in 2010 and joined Urban Company. Build Urban Company's salon business. Anybody who's used Urban Company's salon spa ever? I built that business. Think about it. I have never been to salon in my life. And my co-founder tells me, आप सोचिए. So by the way, the story goes, they hired me to build laundry service. The first offer they did. And I told them very, very nicely that, मैं सबके घर से कपड़े उठाएंगे, सिटी के बाहर लॉन्ड्रीज के साथ टाइप करेंगे और वहाँ पे सामान लेके जाएंगे और कुछ टैगिंग वैगिंग करेंगे, नेक्स्ट डे सामान रहेंगे, घर में डिलीवर कर देंगे. बाय द टाइम आई केम बैक आफ्टर 3 months, दे सेड वो बिजनेस हम नहीं कर रहे हैं, तुम कुछ कर लो 2 महीने तक, देन वील टेल यू. सो ग्रेशियस इनफ, आई वाज द फर्स्ट entrepreneur in residence. They said we don't have a title for you, so we'll give you entrepreneur in residence because you are a failed entrepreneur. So I was like, okay, that works. So 2 months later, Salon was a very small business, I think Delhi NCR में ही था, तो बहुत सारी complaints आती थी. And the founder comes up, Abhiraj and Varun, they came out to me and they said, Harsh यार तू salon चला ले. मैंने यार तुम मतलब तुम मुझे खाने पीने का काम दो, समझ में आता है, salon से मेरा क्या लेना दे रहा है. They said नहीं और कोई है नहीं हैंडल करने के लिए, so why don't you run Salon? And that's how I took over that business. And the first thing I did was, the only salon in my life I had seen was outside Green Park's metro station. वहाँ पीछे एक मार्केट थी गीतांजलि करके. So I went there with a friend of mine and मैंने उसको बोला please help me, take me to a salon. I've never been to a salon. So she took me to a salon and going in, and you know, it's like somebody who doesn't eat non-vegetarian food and goes into a slaughterhouse. And I go there and like kitch. It was weird. I had never seen it in my life. It was just, I mean, no disrespect, it was just weird for me. And I stood there for 10 minutes and that guy comes up to me and said, sir, क्या facial कर दूँ मैं आपका? मैंने कहा face में जगह कितनी है, क्या facial करें? तो मैंने उनका पूरा मेन्यू देखा, तो उसमें there was one service which I could take. I was like, आप मेरा leg massage कर दो. I took 3 leg massages that day. And I sat in that salon for good 3 hours observing left, right. It's a unisex salon, so you can observe what's going on. And I think today I can, you know, look at your eyebrows. I can tell you आपने last कब threading करा. I could walk up to my female colleagues and tell them your upper lip. I could do that. I could tell the difference between a Rika wax and a regular wax. And I could tell कि waxing में कौन सा stroke गलत होता है और redness क्यों होती है. And I could tell why, you know, sometimes your armpits go red when waxing is not done properly. So that business took off. It is still Urban Clap's largest business, Urban company now. It's the largest business. And I think that little success, the aloo paratha comes back again. Kitni dur tak rahega insan? It just came from within. I couldn't wait to start. I just couldn't wait to start. Before Pristyn, and it's my co-founders are also very close friends of mine. And I've met them and we used to hang out in Max. When we thought about the idea, it was literally, और एक cliched होता है, आपने बहुत सारी किताबें पढ़ा होगा, and this is a test which you should put yourself through. I couldn't sleep, genuinely couldn't sleep for probably 2-3 months because I was not starting a company. I was so desperate because it was just so much drive. So long answer, sorry, but very added.
That's phenomenal. I think sums it up really, really well. I mean, that hunger that you spoke about, literally and otherwise, is very, very nice. But coming to the other part, right? Like you took up the challenge of building like a salon business without any experience. And similarly with your Pristyn Care journey, with almost negligible healthcare experience individually, your co-founders are of course doctors. However, you did not have any experience. However, you've gone to now, of course, transform much of what we see in surgery in Indian healthcare.
Still
right?
early, I guess.
Yeah, and I'll keep using fancy adjectives to get the room in order, but the humility will always be there. But talk to us about how you do that, right? Like, I mean, you start with very little understanding of something.
Yeah.
And you go ahead and almost transform it in magnitudes of order.
What do you think?
I think you just have that advantage of not knowing a lot.
How many of you have started something you had not much clue, let's say, before starting the company? How did you do it? What's the way? So, started Salon, went to the salon. Gitanjali was not the first salon. It was first, and then every salon you can think of, be it Gitanjali, be it Affinity, be it, I'm but which else? All the, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting a few names, but all the Pinku Beauty Parlor as well on the corner shop, and Cut and Style. I think there was, so went to every salon I could find. With sometimes they did not have a leg massage service, so couldn't get any service, but every salon, I think I visited probably 50 salons because I couldn't gather just the instinct of thinking, why is this service even required, right? And I spoke to my friends, my parents, my mom rather, not dad, but anybody. So we were focused on only female section that time. So anybody I could find So there were a lot of female friends in the office. Just understanding why is it important, why do you get through it, what's the challenge. There was an advantage which we took. We went online, read, I think, I can't remember how many ever reviews I could find online. Took 3 days just reading reviews. That taught me so much of what goes wrong and right. Then being in one company also has a great advantage. They are as real as it gets, a solid business. We had a great culture of going in and going to the ground. And our co-founder suggested, why don't you go and meet some customers? So I met 100 females in their homes, asking them about threading and waxing and upper lip and eyebrow and every kind of waxing you can, or facial you can think about. I think I used to call, I remember calling an air hostess and I asked her, ma'am, can we visit you? And she said, what do you want to know? I said, we want to know how was your salon experience with Urban Company. And he said, is it legal for you to come to my place and ask me this question? And I was like, damn, I don't know that. And but she was polite enough, and she used to stay somewhere in Aereo uptown. And so just visited her, and the insight which she gave me, and half of the stories I told you about the strokes and the failures. Do you actually know that, I don't know if this helps, if a beautician can do your threading well, she can learn every other service, right? Like, so all the girls, if you ever know a beautician who can do a good threading service, never leave her, right? So that's the kind of things you learn when you go to the ground and just meet people. So 100 female customers, 2 cities, thousands of reviews online, visiting 50 salons, talking to anybody I could find, in my friend circle. And I could, like I said, look at you and tell you need an upper lip. So there is no replacement for experiencing, going to the ground. When we started, so the third startup we just talking to you about was Deliveroo. When we start Deliveroo, so Mulchand metro station, distribute a pamphlet, go to all the outlets, tell them कि अगर कोई order आएगा वहाँ के लेने आएंगे. Went to people's home and used to climb the Lajpat Nagar 1, Lajpat Nagar 2, and used to drop pamphlets at home. The call would come to you and they'll say, यार मुझे अमर कॉलोनी के market से hunger strike, whatever that name is, get me these momos, get me these rolls. There is no better way to experience this. And I can't tell you how many times I got them the wrong order, or I couldn't find the house because Google Maps was not as effective as it is today. Right? The locations are not as clear as it is today. When we started Pristyn, Pristyn also has a funny story. My both co-founders are surgeons and they were in Max Gurgaon. I was living in Oyo, by the way. I stayed in Oyo for 2 years. When I came to Gurgaon, so I was in Delhi when I was doing my startups. When Urban Club offered me a role, they gave me an Oyo in Jacaranda Marg, which is again not very far from here. They said, "Aap 2 hafta वहाँ रह जाइए, then you can find your place." And I noticed that I would go to that place. Subah I would leave that place dirty. I would come home at 10 o'clock in the night, give them a phone call and tell them कि यार please खाना दे दीजिए. 6:30, 7 in the morning, call them कि चाय दे दीजिए और ये कपड़े फेंके इसको धो के रख देना. Everything would be done. I thought, why do I need a home? I negotiated a deal with them. I stayed in Oyo for 2 years straight. And that experience came back. Oyo offered me a role in 2018. Genuinely, this is all honesty, of building, guess what? Long stay. And when they interviewed me, I told them this story. They checked with that Oyo. It comes out that Oyo was one of the first properties they had taken. So the moment I told them the name of the owner, of course I knew the name of the owner, and I told them the name of the owner and the address, they were smart enough to go back and check कि मैं झूठ तो नहीं बोल रहा हूँ. And that guy checked out. They said yes, he stayed there for 2 years, and that's how I got that job. I didn't take up Oyo as a separate story, but no other way to experience. So when I was living there, we used to work Monday to Saturday as usual. And I didn't have family in Delhi. I'm from not from Delhi. So Sunday I used to hang out in Max Gurgaon. I know every room. I know doctor's lounge. I know the OTs. I know their cafes. I know their radiology center. I know their cath labs. I know their diagnostic places. I know their TMTs. I know every place in Max Gurgaon because I used to hang out there. That was not the reason we started Pristyn, but the idea of just starting out and the interactions there built out. And I can never forget an experience of mine. So my co-founder Vaibhav, Dr. Vaibhav, I know him for 30 odd years. Lucky enough to come from the same hometown. So he's slightly shorter in height than I am. So as typical friends, you will keep your arm around there. It's normal, right? As close friends. So I think on one Sunday, and we were, I think, at 10 o'clock in the night, and we were coming out, and I was keeping my arm. And he's a doctor, right? He's a friend, but inside Max, he's a senior surgeon, very accomplished there. And he was one of the young guns, one of the youngest consultants in Max. So we're coming out of Max Gurgaon, and a flashy BMW comes in. And I've shared this story with a lot of people. A flashy BMW comes out. A gentleman, I think in his late 50s, looking very, very polished. Probably carrying the smartest phone, wearing fancy jewelry. I could tell that he probably is lucky with life, has a lot of capital. Comes out of that BMW, and my friend is walking next to me with my arm around his shoulder, and comes and touches his feet. Now we are 30, 31, and that guy is late 50s, and he touches his feet and he said, "Doctor Sahab, aapne bacha liya." So I think he had a procedure to be done. He had a like a ailment. So Vaibhav did his surgery, and he recovered. And that guy had just come back from US visiting his grandchildren and whatever son. He comes back and 10 minutes talks to Vaibhav or Dr. Vaibhav for him like he was God. और मैं सोच रहा हूँ यार मैं क्या यहाँ पे threading waxing ही करे जा रहा हूँ. And I think that moment just lived with me. और Pristyn में हम कुछ करें ना करें, just the fact that every day a patient comes and not everybody recovers well, but who recover by just being design of being in the business, you're trying to do good. That experience really, really stayed with me and has been one motivating factor, a lot of others, but that just didn't go away. But like I said, I know Max, I know a lot of hospitals, no other way. Go and experience, go to the ground. और अब ये ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं बोल रहा हूँ, आप किससे बोल रहे हो? I remember you telling me that you guys had met Ghazal and the Mama Earth folks. So if you talk to Varun and Ghazal, they'll tell you they stood outside probably shops and sold face, those what's it called? Their initial product, face wash and oils and stuff like that. There's no other way. There's no other way. Go and experience, hit the ground. Lovely professional university was started by, I'm Pratham, no offense if he's not in the room. वो बोलते थे हलवाइयों ने कंपनी खोल दी है. हलवाइयों ने इंडिया की सबसे बड़ी एजुकेशन कंपनी बनाया है. So they had no clue about education, but they built one of the largest institutions in the country. So yeah, there's nothing better than the क्या बोलते हैं बादाम खाने से अक्ल नहीं आती धरती पे जाने से आती है. So go to the ground.
Yeah, getting your hands dirty. That's something Harsh speaks about a lot, like within the company as well. And if you've heard him before, this is one common trail. And that's in fact what I want to touch upon further, right? When you started Pristyn Care, there were so many parts of the process that were broken, right?
Yeah.
It was not just the surgery, right? Because you built out an entire model from the fact that you now have a cab that collects the patient on the day of the surgery as well. And those are all learnings that come from initial experiences by just 3 of them, the co-founders doing a lot. So if you can share that piece of the pie, especially what it goes into, like building something from scratch, right? I think that'll be mega helpful.
A lot of entrepreneurs, including us, at some point need capital. To raise capital from venture capital and all the VCs, the angel. Today there is angel network as well. We were 3 people. And I think 3-month-old business when we raised, about our pre-Series A or Series A, what you call it. And when we met Sequoia Capital invested in us. So when we met them and finally they gave us that capital, so there's this Aerocity mein unka office hai. So we met the Sequoia Capital team and they said, okay, we will invest $4 million in you. So फटाफट से मोबाइल निकाल के देखा डॉलर INR कितना हो गया. इतना तो पता ही नहीं था कि डॉलर से कन्वर्ट $4 million होता क्या है. And me and my co-founder came down to the room and they said, why don't you tell us? So their office is on the, I think, 5th floor, and Aerocity mein there's this business center, JW Marriott Hotel, there's a business center, 3rd floor Sequoia Capital's office, and there is of course the coffee shops downstairs. They said, why don't we negotiate? So they had asked us equity ownership, which we disagreed, of course. So they said, why don't you think about it? You know, typical Sequoia, why don't you think about it? How could you say no to Sequoia, right? They said, why don't you think about it, and let's meet in the coffee shop in 1 hour. So हम लोग वहाँ से निकले और straight away went to the restroom. The adrenaline was so strong, right? And like, is somebody going to invest in 3 members? And the reason they invested was that all 3 of you have been doing everything in Pristyn yourself. Everything, and everything means literally we had 5-member team that time, and we were doing everything. And today Pristyn, and you know, I don't know how many of you know Pristyn. We do surgeries, by the way, and we are one of the largest non-emergency surgery care providers in the country today. We'll do like 150,000 surgeries this year in the next 12 months. And हमसे जो largest player in the country is a 40-year-old organization which will do 2 lakh. So we have grown all this in the last 3.5-4 years. So हम लोग 40 cities में 200 clinics चलाते हैं, और you know, we have an innovative model. We have doctors who are our you know, on our panel. They are part of our Pristyn's payroll. So we have 300 plus surgeons. We are one of the largest employers of full-time doctors in the full-time surgeons in the not just medicine but surgeons in the country. And then we go to a partner hospital, use their infrastructure, asset light, and do surgery, let's say by borrowing an OT or a room on rent. So that's you know, in basic. So clinic में doctor, patient वहाँ आता है, doctor examine करते हैं. अगर surgery करनी है, we go to a partner hospital, we rent out their OT and room, and we do surgery there. And we pay them per surgery or whatever the contract is. But we don't have to build out the hospital, which is very, very expensive. So asset light model, that's the innovation. So when we started, we were 3 people. So I used to get all the leads. You know, we started doing little advertising on Google and little SEO and little Facebook, and patients would reach out to us. So I would take the calls and we'll talk to the patient कि सर आपका क्या problem है, क्या आपका issue है. तो सबसे ज़्यादा call आता था सुबह 6 बजे. So we used to, you know, we are the largest bawasir piles surgery in the world. If I'm not mistaken with my numbers, India has the largest population who get infected with piles. So, and we are one of the largest providers. So we start with piles, right? You know, the protrusion on your backside around the anus area, right? Surprisingly, when you go to the restroom in the morning, that's when the pain occurs, the highest, right? Because you strain and you want to just ease yourself. So हमें 6 बजे कॉल आता था, क्योंकि जब भी कोई रेस्टरूम से बाहर आता था तभी दर्द होता था. तो 6 बजे कॉल आता था, एंड हमारे लिए पीक आवर्स होता था. इफ वी कैन टेक द कॉल एट 6 o'clock, you know, we will live. So I used to answer the call and talk to the patient, ask them what's going on, what's your problem, you know, what's since when you have been suffering, this is the treatment, where are you from, and all blah blah blah. Then I would book them a consult. We had a 10 by 10 ka clinic in sector 43 Gurgaon, which was our office as well. So, and they would come and they would meet my co-founder, who was the surgeon. So वो उनको दिखाते थे, फिर वो बोलते थे कि हाँ ये आपका प्रिस्क्रिप्शन है, पूरा कंसल्ट होता था. फिर वो बोलते थे हम आपकी सर्जरी करेंगे. फिर वो बाहर आते थे, तो मैं उनको बोलता था ये हमारे पार्टनर हॉस्पिटल है, तो आप कल जाके एडमिट हो जाइए, और हम आपकी डॉक्टर साहब आएंगे, जो कि मेरा को-फाउंडर है, वो आएगा और हम आपकी सर्जरी कर देंगे. तो ऐसे सर्जरी हो जाती थी. तो ऐसे लगता तो बड़ा आसान है, थियोरेटिकली लगा तो बहुत आसान है. But then we started seeing the trouble. A patient would reach out to us and you know, explain their challenges. We would get them to meet the doctor and they would talk about their issues, and then we would tell them कि आप ये हॉस्पिटल जाइए और सर्जरी एडमिट हो जाइए. तो बोल रहे थे ये हॉस्पिटल के पास इंश्योरेंस नहीं है, और मेरे पास मैं you know, they would be a corporate employee or somebody who has a health insurance. तो मेरी हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस है, तो मैं इसका क्या करूँ. हमने कहा हमें क्या पता क्या करो, हमें तो पता है सर्जरी करनी है. बोल रहे लेकिन इससे फ्री में हो जाती है. You know, think of the naivety. Like you know it, but you don't really know it. I've never undergone a surgery in my life. The worst part of being in Pristyn is I can never wish any one of you to ever, you know, be our patient. But अगर backside में दर्द हुआ, please come to us. Right? So they said कि admission कराना है, oh sorry, insurance clear कराना है. I was like ठीक है हम कराते हैं. So I took their insurance card, went to the hospital, and they said ये insurance है, how much will you pay for this? ये patient का हमने surgery करना है. So health insurance pays for your surgery, right? They sort of, you go in, you get admitted, and they will pay, and then you get discharged. So हमने health उनको कार्ड दिया, उन्होंने कहा हम आपको 24 घंटे बाद बताएंगे. I have one patient, one customer, and your partner says हम आपको 24 घंटे बाद बताएंगे कि हम इसकी इंश्योरेंस के अगेंस्ट पैसा देंगे कि नहीं. आप सोचिए आपके पास एक कस्टमर हो जिसने आप who is the difference between you going out of business and a third party provider tells you कि आप 24 घंटे बाद आना और मैं आपको बताऊंगा इंश्योरेंस कवर. I was like, dude, मैं तेरा कत्ल कर दूंगा, तो आधे घंटे में बता. And that's when we realized how big is that problem. So we started solving for insurance. Then so we built today an automated solution. Today, if I know anybody of anybody's insurance policy number, in 10 seconds I can tell you in 42 cities, in 1,000 plus hospitals, that how much will your insurance pay for 200 plus surgeries. And we built all this on data analytics and AI and stuff like that. So but day one पे physically submit कराते थे, वो insurance company को भेजते थे, 24 घंटे बाद response आता. फिर हमारा इंश्योरेंस का प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करना शुरू किया. फिर हमने बोला कि अच्छा आप आ जाइए और आपको एडमिट करा देंगे. तो आदमी जो हमारे पेशेंट थे वो हॉस्पिटल आते थे, फिर पेशेंट की लाइन में खड़े रहते थे. हम वेट कर रहे हैं, एक ही पेशेंट है, एक ही डॉक्टर है, एक ही आई एम द केयर कोऑर्डिनेटर, एक ही केयर कोऑर्डिनेटर है. अब वापस क्लिनिक पे भी भागना है क्योंकि शायद एक और पेशेंट आ जाए, और सर्जरी नहीं हो रही है क्योंकि पेशेंट लाइन में खड़ा है, तो एडमिशन नहीं हो रही है. तो एवरेज टाइम लाइन इज 3 hours टू गेट अ पेशेंट एडमिट इन अ हॉस्पिटल. टुडे वी हैव सॉल्व्ड इट टू 30 minutes. तो हम लोगों ने लाइन में लग के एडमिशन कराया, तो सीखा कि यार व्हाट वाज गोइंग ऑन. And it turns out the majority problem is that they just need KYC documents and consent forms and insurance clearance and prescription and 5 other diagnostic documents which they need to log into the system. Today we are solving that with technology, and we brought that time down from 3 hours to 30 minutes. But we learned that by standing in the line ourselves. फिर next day discharge का problem आया, तो वो बोल रहे हैं कि patient को discharge कर दो. अब बोल रहे हैं insurance company ने there is something called a query. तो बेसिकली आप 30 साल से इंश्योरेंस भर रहे हो हर महीने या हर साल, और पहली बार इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ने आपको पैसा देना है, और जब पैसे देने का टाइम आता है तो वो बोलते हैं कि आपकी इंश्योरेंस में ये कवर्ड नहीं है, बिकॉज उनका बिजनेस ये है कि प्रीमियम लेते रहो, पे आउट कभी ना करना पड़े, राइट. सो दैट्स द बिजनेस मॉडल, एंड वी कैन टॉक अबाउट इट. बट सो इंश्योरेंस कंपनी से क्वेरी आ जाता है. क्वेरी मीन्स दैट आपका 50,000 रुपये का बिल है, 10,000 हम नहीं देंगे, और हमने पेशेंट को बोला हुआ है कि आपका सारा इंश्योरेंस में कवर्ड है. आप सोचिए, ऊपर एक पेशेंट रूम में है, स्लाइटली अनवेल, जस्ट अंडरगॉन अ सर्जरी, इज डाइंग टू गो होम, और मैं उसको जाके बोलूँगी सर 10,000 रुपये कट गए, आपको पॉकेट से देना पड़ेगा. It was crazy. And so we had to solve insurance and deductions and stuff like that. So we realized that discharge is 8-hour problem. So जब आपको डॉक्टर सर्जरी के लिए डिस्चार्ज के लिए क्लियर करता है और जब आप डिस्चार्ज होकर घर जाते हैं 8 घंटे लगते हैं. And we've been struggling to bring that problem down. Today we are at 2.5 hours, but again just by learning the problem ourselves. एक और बहुत real incident हुआ हमारे साथ. So we had this one patient, uncle, young, sorry not young, I think a gentleman in his 50s or 60s, and uncle auntie रहते थे नोएडा में अकेले. उनके बेटे रहते थे in US. Or some place in abroad. I don't know why I said US, but somewhere abroad. And वो हमें दिखाने आए, उनको सर्जरी करना था. So we gave them a date. जिस दिन मॉर्निंग को सर्जरी था, सुबह 8 बजे his son calls me and says कि यार सर्जरी कैंसिल करना पड़ेगा. मेरा हार्ट सिंक कर गया. मैंने अगेन वन पेशेंट, आपका मतलब आप सोचिए सर्वाइव कैसे करेंगे आप, वन पेशेंट, राइट. एंड सर व्हाट्स द प्रॉब्लम. ही सेड कि माय डैड मॉम डैड अकेले रहते हैं, नोएडा में रहते हैं, तो वहाँ से चल के गुड़गांव आना है, एंड ही इज़ हैविंग ट्रेमलिंग फीट एंड ही कांट ड्राइव, सो ही इज़ हैविंग कोल्ड फीट. मैंने कहा वो तो मुझे शादी से पहले हुआ था, अंकल को आज की हो गए 3 सालों बाद. तो कोल्ड फीट, तो हमने कहा लेकिन मतलब उनको क्या दिक्कत हो रही है. वो कह रहे हैं वो उनसे गाड़ी नहीं चल रही है. थिंक ऑफ इट, सर्जरी कराने में पता नहीं डर लग रहा है कि नहीं, पर गाड़ी चला के नहीं आ पा रहे हैं. हम लोग अगेन वी सेड कोई बात नहीं, हम ले आते हैं. सर आप ले आओगे. हमने कहा हमारे पास तो कोई काम ही नहीं है, हम नोएडा जाएंगे ले आएंगे. मतलब वी डिडंट टेल देम दिस. आई वाज लाइक नो सर, वी हैव अ सर्विस वेयर वी पिक पेशेंट्स फ्रॉम होम. ही सेड यू कैन डू दैट. आई वाज लाइक वी कैन डू दैट. सो वी ड्रोव टू नोएडा, picked him from home, and we got him to Gurgaon, did the surgery, and since that day every patient in Pristyn gets a cab. By the way, I also went through the same experience. My mom underwent a procedure just before, in and around we were starting Pristyn, and I learned a lot from there as well. She had to undergo hysterectomy and a lot of challenges. But one of the challenges which I can't forget is that the day I was supposed to drive her from my home to Max, she was a bit in Max Gurgaon, so not very far. I think it was 20-minute drive, and they said come 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning. I literally thought the world had changed. It is genuinely, you get terrified knowing that your loved one is going to undergo a surgery, right? So since that day, every patient gets a cab. So you learn everything by doing, so hit the ground. तो हम पेशेंट से पहले बात करते थे, फिर उनका खुद कंसल्ट करते थे, फिर उन्हें घर से लेके आते थे, फिर लाइन में खड़े होकर उनका एडमिशन कराते थे, फिर उनका इंश्योरेंस क्लियर कराते थे, फिर उनकी सर्जरी भी हम ही खुद करते थे क्योंकि डॉक्टर्स भी हम ही थे, फिर उनका डिस्चार्ज हम करते थे, फिर उन्हें हम घर छोड़ के आते थे, फिर उनका इंश्योरेंस का कुछ कभी रह जाए वो करते थे, फिर उन्हें फॉलोअप के लिए फ़ोन करते थे. Today there are I think 30+ teams in Pristyn, and all those 30+ teams are a subsection of what we learned in the initial few days. So there is, if you are a startup, a lot of entrepreneurs reach out to me and they said, I'm going to raise capital because I want to build a team. And the first question I ask them, whatever product or service you are building, have you done it yourself? So if you are a SaaS, have you programmed, have you sold to the end customer? अगर आपने खुद सेल नहीं मारी तो आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते. आप जिंदगी में आपका जो सेल्स टीम है जिंदगी भर बेवकूफ़ बनाएगा. आपको ये भी नहीं पता होगा कि कितनी सेल्स कॉल में कितनी डील्स होती हैं. यू कैन नेवर फिगर आउट द कन्वर्जन, राइट? अगर आप फूड डिलीवरी में हैं और आपने घर जाके कभी फूड डिलीवरी, एंड स्विगी फाउंडर्स हैव डन दैट बाय द वे, आई एम टेलिंग यू, हर्षा एंड द फोक्स, आपको ये नहीं समझ में आएगा कि राइडर की ऑप्टिमाइजेशन कैसे करना है. और अगर आप D2C ब्रांड चला रहे हैं अमेजोन पे और कभी अमेजोन मार्केटिंग खुद नहीं करी है तो आपको ये नहीं पता है कि हीलियम करके एक टूल होता है जो आपको बता देता है, एंड एनीवन हु इज रनिंग D2C, कि आपके सारे कंपेटिटर्स की सेल्स कितनी है. या और अगर आप इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स कोई कंपनी चला रहे हैं और आपने कभी इंपोर्ट डेटा खोल के नहीं देखा है तो आपको नहीं पता लगेगा कि इंडिया में जो आपके कंपेटिटर्स हैं कितना आगे हैं या कितना पीछे हैं, राइट? सो देयर इज नो अदर लर्निंग. एनीथिंग यू डू, यू आर अ ब्लॉकचेन प्रोवाइडर और आप प्रोग्राम नहीं जानते, डोंट डू ब्लॉकचेन, डोंट बी फैंसी. If you want to start a product company, you have to be a programmer. There's no way about it. Or your co-founder needs to be a programmer and you can sell. That's okay. You need to have that skill in your founding table. Otherwise you will never learn. I mean, ये हमारा belief है. Doesn't mean मैंने salon चलाया तो salon professional था, but we made our effort to learn it drastically well.
Absolutely. No substitute to doing it yourself. And I think I've had the pleasure of listening to this once before, and my takeaway was exactly this, that survival makes you do so many things yourself, and you can build out that best experience if you've actually been on the ground and done it.
Yeah.
Next up, I mean, Harsh, the other thing that is very interesting about your business is that it's not, there is of course a tech-enabled component to it, but this is a very heavy operations business, right?
Totally.
And in our generation, and I'm generalizing, so pardon me for that.
I hope I'm in the same generation.
Yes, you are. I would like to think that we go after these sexy businesses, which are, software first. So think of Facebook, social businesses. But the best Amazon is a very, very heavy offline first business, right? What I'm trying to understand from you is that how do you navigate these not so cool aspects of a business, and how do you build this offline first efficiency that you now, I'm sure, need to have to provide that great experience?
Yeah, I think it is slightly unfair to any entrepreneur who's probably doing a social or a SaaS or a marketing tool. I don't think they're unsexy. They're businesses. Business, by the way, चाहे वो Twitter हो और Elon Musk news में छाया रहता है, but he sleeps in the office, and that's a reality, right? I mean, we see the positive side. We don't see. Think about that guy has built Tesla, SpaceX. What's the name of that company? Sorry? Boring company, and then the Neuralink company, right?
Neuralink.
Think about it. Like, it's not, they're all very sexy products, but it's extremely hard to build them. So I think it might not be right to categorize anything as sexy and cool and maybe boring businesses. But there's an inherent advantage which I've seen. So if you know Off Business, so Off Business is a phenomenal company built by two amazing founders, Ashish and Ruchi. And I was once talking to Ashish. I was like, Ashish, यार आप ये धंधा build क्यों कर रहे हो? वो कह रहा है यार देखो, CTR और CAC सबको समझ में आता है, या conversion rate, funnel सबको समझ में आता है. मिथाइल प्रोपिलीन कैसे बनता है, कितने लोगों को आता है, उसका फॉर्मूला भी याद नहीं होगा मेजॉरिटी लोगों को. So the advantage of unsexy businesses, or the kind you say, less people go there. That's an advantage, but that, like I said, less people also try to build SpaceX or rocket engines. So उसके अलावा कोई advantage नहीं है. बाहर से लगता है कि धंधा आसान है, तो बहुत सारे लोग बिल्ड करना शुरू कर देते हैं कि यार ऐप ही तो बनाना है, मैं अपने लिविंग रूम से बना सकता हूँ. But you have to build an offline business, or which is serviced offline. So you have to go out and experience. So I think what I can see is, as individuals, we get attracted to things which we can do it from our laptop. I'll tell you something, in anyone who is under 30 here, right, and which is literally everyone. I think a thought process ko, especially if, my wife is 3 years younger to me. I'm 35 and she's 32. And there is like generations difference in the way we think. Like मुझे लगता है मेरे और मेरे पेरेंट्स में इतना जनरेशन गैप नहीं है जितना मेरी और मेरी बीवी में. For me, friends, when I see friends today, मुझे लगता है ये तो इंडिया की आज की कहानी है ना. मतलब everything मुझे लगता है तो बड़ा अब कॉमन हो गया. When I was growing up, it was not common, to talk about your girlfriends to your parents, or do all sort of things. But for her, I'm a dehat, right? So there's a world of difference, right? So हम लोग थोड़ा easily ना blame कर देते हैं कि Gen Z, millennials, इनको सब quickly चाहिए. I don't think it's their fault, right? Think about it. When I was growing up and I went to US in 2007, 2008, और पहली बार YouTube बिना बफर किए चला. आप मतलब it is orgasmic. आप सोचिए, आप YouTube पे जा रहे हैं और आपको न्यूली कोई नया सॉन्ग जो रिलीज हुआ है आपको देखना है, और 3 मिनट का सॉन्ग है, और आपको आई ग्रू अप व्हेन वी यूज्ड टू हैव अ डायल अप, और हम लोग पहले वीडियो खोलते थे, फिर उसको बंद करते थे, वो थोड़ी बफर होती थी, फिर चलाते, फिर वो बफर होती थी, फिर चलाते. आप में से किसी ने तो ये नहीं किया हुआ है. अब हाँ, नहीं, कम लोगों ने करा है. Let's be honest, right? Many of you probably had smartphones when you were in, I don't know, in early college or school days, right? We didn't grow up like that. I tried to start a company where we wanted to open, and to your, maybe I'm sorry if I've jumped the question, but wanted to open outlets like Chayos, not Chayos, but in the fast food industry, QSR, and we wanted to map, locations where we would have more footprint. So we said we will predict, and this is in 2012, we will predict कि यार अगर मैं ये इस मार्केट में आउटलेट खोलूँगा और ये डबल रोड है और ये पास में इस तरह की हाउसिंग सोसाइटी है और पास में कोई फैंसी बिजनेस स्कूल है जहाँ पे यंग डायनामिक लोग आते हैं और कोई ऑफिस स्पेस है और 2 फ्लोर है और इस तरह का आउटिंग मतलब लेट्स से मेन्यू है, द सेल्स पर यूनिट विल बी हाई. So we wanted to make this mathematical model of all the stupid things you can think of. मतलब इतनी अक्ल नहीं है, आप जाके देख लो जिस मार्केट में अच्छा डोमिनोज चलता है उसके बाजू में ही खोल सकते थे. And I wasted 6 months doing this. But at that point of time, we did not have Google Maps. So I took down subway. India में 282 subways were there in India that time. I took down locations of 282 subways, plotted them on a Google map, took printouts, and used that to navigate through Bangalore and Gurgaon and Bombay. I visited 250 subways. I don't know why. And actually waited tables in ये sector 53, ये जो चाय गोल्फ कोर्स रोड पे चाय वाली मार्केट है, तो कॉर्नर पे जो फार्मेसी है वहाँ पे सबवे होता था. So I worked as a waiter there for I think good 45 days. I learned how to make a sandwich, learned how to run the cash table. ये भी सीखा कि कैश में चोरी कैसे करते हैं. अगर मुझे आउटलेट चलाना है, मुझे जानना है कि चोरी कैसे होती है. आप कैसे रिंग करते हो कैश रजिस्टर 2 बार और पैसे निकाल लेते हो 1 बार. देयर आर वेज टू डू इट. सो गूगल तब मैप नहीं होता था, तो स्मार्टफोन्स नहीं. दैट्स द जनरेशन, राइट. मतलब उस टाइम तो बंदी पटाने के लिए भी मेहनत करनी पड़ती थी, अब तो स्वाइप करना है, राइट. So it's not fault of this generation. When they grew up, they had knowledge in their phones. They did not have to go for libraries. हम लोग को एग्जाम्स देने होते थे तो हमें बुक्स लाइब्रेरी से जाके लानी पड़ती थी. अब तो नोट्स व्हाट्सएप पे शेयर हो जाते हैं. आई नो आपके एग्जाम्स नहीं होते हैं, बट कॉलेजेस में आज भी एग्जाम्स होते हैं, तो नोट्स व्हाट्सएप पे शेयर होते थे, तब बुक्स लेके आए, व्हाट्सएप होता नहीं था, तो हम लाइब्रेरी जाते थे, किताब लाते थे, फोटोस्टैट के पास जाते थे, उससे फोटोकॉपी कराते थे। पहले फोटोकॉपी कराते थे, नहीं सॉरी स्कैन कराते थे, स्कैन कराने में लगते थे 5 रुपए, फिर उसके बाद कराते थे 50 पैसे में फोटोकॉपी, और फिर सबको बेचते थे, राइट? दैट्स हाउ you made money. You didn't grow up on that, right? When you wanted information, it was in your phone. When you wanted a girlfriend, it was swipe right. And when you wanted to learn about the coolest new device, or you wanted to learn about AI, you could just go to a Coursera or a Udacity and you would learn, right? So I think it is our job to understand that this generation has access to a lot of information, and if they sometimes believe that's how the success in business is, it's okay. So I think it's our responsibility, if we've seen that, to help them understand that the things can be slow and it's okay to be persistent. It took me, like I said, 9 years to, so I went to 100 venture capital firms across 5 years to raise capital, and raised sum total of 0, and then raised money from Sequoia, $4 million in 1 week from the time we started to raise. So perseverance kind of helps sometimes.
Absolutely.
I lost the question, but I told you a few things.
I think it leads towards the fact that, I mean, my objective with the question was that we can prove that offline businesses succeed, and in
100%.
some shape or form, that kind of gets proven, and it's no fault of the generation, of course, as you mentioned.
You know MBA chai wala, right? I mean, think about
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
And chayos, they made the drinking chai profitable. Like,
Yeah.
and we have made bawasir.
Profitable.
We have made it profitable. But we did a recent campaign called "Don't Shame Piles." But you know, you read bawasir on the walls.
Yeah.
And I used to take buses in Punjab. LPU के campus के बाहर भी लिखा हुआ है ऐसे, तब हमको बताना.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
that's right. I think this has been very interesting, Harsh. I think before, I mean, we go to, audience questions, open it up, I think it'll be interesting to understand the other side of the business. And given the dynamics, right, and pardon me for being a bit dramatic here, but funding winter, all of those buzzwords are in fashion. However, Pristyn has been around for, I'm guessing, 4 years, right? You've seen significant growth sustainably. And these are values that you've often spoken of, right? Company building in a sustainable fashion. Talk to us about some of those things, right? Clarity of thought maybe that you had in the initial years, how that turned into action, why is it necessary, and how you've gone about building some really core fundamentals that are required for a 15-year-long company, not a 5-year.
You know, somebody asked me this question a few days back, and they said, what did you learn from your failures which you applied to Pristyn? Honestly, failure has a lot of noise. तो आपको ज़्यादा सिखाता नहीं है. आपको लगता है आपको बहुत सिखाता है, genuinely ज़रूरी है, but you are not able to figure out what went wrong, at least what went right. It looks to me success teaches you a lot. So when we saw that little success at UC, we saw that we had created significant value, where we could take the convenience of a beauty service at home, and there were a lot of advantages to that there is a sustainable business model you can build. But I think to all the intelligent pointers you made, I think we've been very lucky, and this is I've sorry about this. I've spoken to a lot of good entrepreneurs, and whenever I ask them, आपने sustainable business कैसे बनाया, आपने profitable कैसे बनाया, and all those good things, a lot of them, and I'll tell you the right things which you will find on, you Google the same question, पहले 5 point Google पे आपको same मिलेगी, तो मैं कुछ नया नहीं बताऊंगा आपको, but a lot of times you are, we sometimes don't attribute it to luck. So we were very lucky in some certain sense. When we started building this business, nobody really thought of healthcare as an opportunity, right? In 2018, when we started Pristyn, health tech, which you notice today, the word did not exist. So when we met some of, I remember calling, I have a very, very, very good friend who's a VC, and I told him कि यार, और उसने मुझे 10 बार ही मना किया था कि I will not invest $1 in you, you are worthless. तो मैंने उसको फ़ोन किया कि यार मैं ना एक बवासीरी कंपनी स्टार्ट करने वाला हूँ. And he said, तुझे ही होएगा पहले, सारा दिन तेरे से नहीं होएगा. And he invested, so it was very unsexy, right? That nobody believed in it, and that way we were lucky, right? So when we went and started building a healthcare service. We started, trying to acquire patients, on the internet. Nobody believed it, so it was very cheap. Right now, a lot of people are trying it, but it was very cheap. When we, went to the hospitals and we asked them, hey, we are going to rent your OT and come and do a surgery. They said, यार हमने इतने बड़े बड़े डॉक्टर रख लिए, वो तो पेशेंट ला नहीं पाते, तुम बड़ा ले आओगे तो कुछ भी दे देना. So we were very lucky. They didn't charge us much. Had my co-founder not be a surgeon, I would have never understood that when somebody reached out to me at 6 o'clock in the morning and told me that I am, my backside is bleeding and I am on blood thinning medicine and I am also diabetics. Can you help me? I couldn't have helped that person had there not been a co-founder next to me who was a doctor. Had I not learned, we have a team of 150 engineers. Today, everything, we have like 30 products inside Pristyn and, everything just happens on tech. And we still are beta version in our consumer facing tech. So think about it. We are still behind there, but everything else is out there. Had I not seen somebody like an urban company succeed on technology, an offline business like Salon, we would have never had that. So I think don't underestimate luck, okay? But harder you work, luckier you get. The only thing which we had, which drove us was, every time I started a company, I invested whatever I had, every time. Because I think at some point you believe कि यार कुछ और नहीं होएगा, तो you काम तो कर ही लेंगे. कॉल सेंटर तो जॉब दे ही देता है यार, 30,000 रुपये महीना तो वहाँ भी मिल जाते हैं. So it's the, and anybody, हम जो थोड़ी बहुत बात कर लेते हैं, तो you can always get a role, right? So it's not hard. So all three of us invested everything we had in Pristyn, everything. So had Pristyn not worked, I think in my young age, I would have gone, it sounds fancy, I would have gone bankrupt 4th time in my life. 100%. 1 year, no salary, everything I had, and I was, we were newly married. So we had married 6 months into getting married, we started Pristyn. And my wife was working in Safdarjung that time. So we had, we were living off her savings, on her salary rather. And invested everything. So had we not built a business which would help pay salaries next month, we didn't have anybody to pay salaries, that's a separate story, we wouldn't have never survived. So second month, when we had one person join us, we said, इनकी salary देनी तो नुकसान में तो नहीं दे सकते, खुद के पैसे तो है नहीं, सब लगा दिए, capital raise नहीं किया. So building a sustainable business was the need. We didn't have a choice. When we went out and saw our patients struggle through coming to the hospital, going through the admission, getting discharged, we had no choice. हमारे को business build करना है, हमारा customer struggle कर रहा है. Think about it. You are building, I don't know, a blockchain company or or a YouTube channel on education, and your customers are not able to download a help book. You will want to solve it. Or if you are building a podcast and nobody understands what are you asking the other person, you would want to maybe they can't understand your accent, for God's sake. You might want to build a क्या बोलते हैं उसको, subtext नहीं होता है, subtitle, sorry. You want to build a subtitle because you don't have a choice. So there was no choice for us to help it for a customer. There was no choice for us than to build a business which was sustainable. There was no choice with us not to build technology, because we said on a Sunday or a Saturday or a weekend, and we are in the weekend right now, 1,000 patients will walk inside and outside an operation theater across 40 cities, risking their lives. How could I not know their vitals? How could I not know that they were given right anesthesia? How could we miss if the doctor didn't land up on time or the equipment was? How could we not know? So we didn't have a choice. So when you don't have a choice, you supposedly build a sustainable business. So not having a choice and being lucky with probably co-founders, it helped. The funding winter, guys, anybody amongst you who's on, do you guys understand pre-seed, angel, series A, सबको समझ में आता है? Anybody of you is on series A stage, series B stage? Then funding winter is bullshit for you, forget it. Don't worry at all. Don't care. Do you know, while we are 30% down in annual fundraise by startups year on year from last year till November, some of the largest VCs have raised their biggest funds. Be it Sequoia, be it Excel, be it Bloom. Bloom announced today's K Capital, Northwest, Your Nest, और बहुत सारे angels हैं who have been able to build successful companies, and you had some of them on your show, and they're reachable. You can reach out to them. Today, you want to reach anybody in the country, it's possible through LinkedIn, through Instagram, right? So there is no dearth of capital today if you want to build, especially at Series A stage. 2010 में when I started my first company, I told my dad कि यार मेरे को business शुरू करना है, and he said हाँ कि मैं कपड़े का काम करता हूँ, तो तू भी आजा दुकान पे, and I was like नहीं मुझे ये नहीं करना है, मुझे बिजली की चोरी पकड़नी है, and I need this money. He said I don't have money to give you, like I mean I have money but that's for your future or my future and savings. I mean I'm not going to give it to you. And how are you going to get money? As he said, the bank is not going to give it to you. You don't have any credibility. So where are you going to raise capital? I said एक seed fund करके है, एक उस टाइम तो Sequoia भी इंडिया में इतना एक्टिव नहीं था. So there was no choices, right? And like I said, we went through every person I could think of in India, abroad, globally to raise capital. Today, you want to raise $1 million, $100,000, $50,000, $200,000. There are at least 1,000 individuals and then VC companies who can give it to you. So, क्या funding winter है? आप लोगों को क्यों चिंता लेना है? Right? While I feel for Ukraine and Russia and utmost support to the team, but the reality is it is not impacting. Well, it is impacting us geopolitical. But right now, for your business, don't use it as an excuse. Any one of you who's building a business which has any value for the customer, you will raise capital. I can guarantee you. एक और अच्छा चीज है, सब फैफ बंद हो गए. बहुत सारे फैफ बिजनेसेस को कैपिटल रेज हो जाता था, तो आप सोचिए ना 100 कंपनियां हैं, उसमें 50 फैफ हैं और सब लोगों से मिल रही हैं. अब 50 ही कंपनी है, फैफ तो बंद हो गया. Your chances of raising capital have increased. Indian stock markets are holding up. We'll have, and we say we are going to be one of the largest, GDPs. We have overtaken, we are third largest. आपको पता है हिंदुस्तान में 15 से 30 साल की उम्र में 300 million people of our age group. In fact, if you include the 30+-year-old, that number probably jumps to 450 million. 300 million people, 15-30, which includes all of you. 300 million. That is the population of America. We are in the best phase. All of us are super lucky. Entrepreneurial ecosystem, entrepreneurial support, guidance, knowledge is so much available. अगर आपको नहीं मिल रही है तो आपकी गलती है, बस आप ये समझ लो. It's so much available. So funding winter bullshit for you guys. Yes, if you are a Series D, Series E company, there can be worry, and there are a lot of ways to deal with it. But at your stage, forget it. In fact, वो लोग सारा investments, मेरे पास data नहीं है. We can check with Traxon and some of the other folks. But seed or Series A and pre-Series A पे जितना capital invest हो रहा है, it's mind-boggling. And anybody who has started a company in the last 5 years, this is the best time. So be super positive, hit the ground, go to the salon if you're building a salon startup, learn about threading and waxing, but be true to your customer and build your business.
Super. This is the best time to start, and I think that's the common consensus, especially if you're in India right now and coming from Harsh and the likes who built successful businesses and continue building it. It just reinforces that belief, and I think that's super positive for the room here. As we conclude, at least my set of questions, and please prepare yours. I mean, there's so much knowledge here, so grasp that opportunity. But Harsh, on the people side of things, you've had a lot of interesting
By the way,
angles as well.
ये बोल रहे हैं ना, there is so much knowledge, ये सब बकवास है.
He's being humble.
Stop. I think our current set of entrepreneurs, individuals, and it's not being humble, it's being honest. The current set of individuals, the way they have been brought up, the knowledge they've been exposed to, the information they have, I think you don't need to be an old person or super experienced to build anything. You just need persevering mind, tireless hard work, वो जो शांतनु का पोस्ट था 18 घंटे, वो रियलिटी है यार. मतलब honestly, if you know any of your friends who has done anything they believe is phenomenal in life, it could be, you know, if you ever seen एक बड़ा common है, लोग विराट कोहली की videos देखते हैं online, right? या IAS aspirants के बारे में सुनते हैं, या जिन्होंने let's say IIT clear किया है, top ranker है, या somebody who's built a phenomenal business, right? It's your choice. It's your choice. आपका पर्पस है, आपको संडे काम करना है, आप फ्राइडे रात को यहाँ बैठे हैं, आप कल शाम को 8 बजे हमारे ऑफिस आ जाइएगा, यू विल सी द सेम एनर्जी. इट इज़ योर चॉइस. वी सेड एन इंस्टीट्यूशन टुक 40 years to do 200,000 surgeries. We want to do it in 5 years. It is our choice. So आपको कितने घंटे काम करना है, कितना एफर्ट डालना है, it's okay you are not experienced. It doesn't matter. It's inside you. So never ever believe your lack of experience, it will be made up by your sheer willpower and hard work. There's no escape to that, and you know, in that journey you will get lucky for sure. So never ever idealistic, वो ideal worship कोई जरूरत नहीं होती.
Kevalya was here yesterday, so I'm sure experience is definitely no bar for
It's no
this
bar.
audience.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, but I was trying to focus on the point where around people and culture, right? You've
Yeah.
had very interesting stories as well about how you've done things differently at Pristyn, also about the 6-day work week that you've had till now.
Yeah,
So maybe
it's hard.
worth sharing to a young audience as to, you know, when joining startups, operating can be, again, seem very fancy, but there are
Yeah.
different nuances to it. You've of course worked at Urban Company that you shared with us, but what are some things that you've done differently as a founder to around people?
क्या डिफरेंट एज फाउंडर, बस मेहनत करिए. ये सब मतलब ये सब सवाल ऐसे इसलिए पूछे जाते हैं, जैसे यार कुछ तो जिंदगी में अलग करते होंगे ये लोग. इट्स नॉट, दैट्स नॉट ट्रू. Genuinely that's not true. You just have to work hard. The only thing we did was, and you know, something I again learned, and to the question you asked was, I think the smartest decision I made alongside, you know, working with the most amazing co-founders all the time. I think all the co-founders this is my 4th startup. All my co-founders were extraordinary people. All of them are doing phenomenal things in their life. So like I said, I got lucky there. But the only thing which you can take away is, when we started the first 3 companies, beyond the co-founder, every time हमारा एक ही optimization होता था कि उसको hire करो जिसकी salary सबसे कम हो. Hire the cheapest source, cheapest, right? उसका नुकसान क्या था? उसका नुकसान ये था कि the thinkers in the company are reduced to the 2 co-founders, and sometimes you will miss knowledge on the ground. Because you are doing 10 things, but the company is doing 20 things, so you will miss learning from the next 20 things. Right? So when we started Pristyn, the only thing we made sure was we will only hire, you know, A players. Only hire people who are, मतलब intelligence जो filter है, आपको smart होना ही पड़ेगा. कोई doubt ही नहीं है. Intelligence तो filter है ही है. But intelligence से ज़्यादा attitude चाहिए आपको. Attitude चाहिए to give your best, not care about, you know, I keep sharing this story. We had one of our youngest folks. So I called him, and some of you might have you know, heard as well, but I called him, I think on a Friday or some day, or Friday I think. I said ke, you know, I had posted this job on IM Jobs, and he responded, and I called him. I said ke, आपकी, you know, background बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है, can we interview you? कहता yes. मैंने कहा तो आप कल सुबह 8 बजे आ जाना. बोल रहा है कि नहीं, मैं तो you know, I'm not in town, तो मैं कल सुबह 8 बजे नहीं आ सकता. He said कि मैंने कहा अच्छा ठीक है, आप एक काम करो, कल शाम को आ जाना 5-6 बजे, right? He said okay. Reluctantly he said okay. Next day 5 o'clock, this gentleman walks into my office wearing chappals, wearing jeans which were smelling. He was wearing jacket, you know, somewhere in the winters, hair all roughed up, you know, half he had not slept. I could tell he had not slept, and he was you know, holding a water bottle and looking like half drunkard. I was like, what's going on? He said, you said come and meet me at 6 tomorrow, and so I was not there in town, so I came. He said, आप कहाँ से आ रहे हो? कह रहा मैं 500 किलोमीटर बाइक चला के आ रहा हूँ. I was in the Himalayas. I had gone on a solo trip after failing my IS exam, and I wanted like a breather. So I had gone on my bike all by myself, and he's from Hyderabad, so I love Hyderabad. It's one of the best foods. By the way, आप में से किसी को invest करना है ना, go invest in Hyderabad. That's where the real estate is going to boom. Bangalore तो choke हो गया है. So that individual travels 500 kilometers on his bike solo to come and see you on the interview. Our second hire, another amazing hire. मैंने बोला कि 6 बजे तो हम उठते ही थे क्योंकि दर्द होना है 6 बजे, 6 बजे तो कॉल आएगा. So I get this email at about 5:30 in the morning. This individual writes to me and says, I'm shutting down my startup. We are 2 co-founders and we have a 10-member team, and I'm trying to place all of them with young startups, and I hear that you have raised some capital from Sequoia. So can you consider hiring? I responded him at 5:32 a.m. and met him at the same day in the afternoon. That individual is the youngest VP in Pristyn, and Pristyn was his first job. Youngest VP, or average age of a VP in Pristyn is 34. That guy is 29, right? So age doesn't matter. And I asked him, why did you choose us? He said, you were the only founder who responded me before 6 a.m. Like, that was his bar to join a company. Thank God I was up that day, right? Like, so people, right? So hire the right people. We begged. Yesterday we had completed our 4 of our first hire completed 4 years. So we called their families, and we had a town hall, and we had their families come and visit our office, and they had a walk. So it was a very proud moment for us. The first individual who joined us, he was referred to me by a friend. I had to talk to his dad. His dad told him कि यार मैंने इसका प्रोफाइल देखा है, इसने 3 कंपनी फेल किया, ये तो कंपनी फेल करके वापस चले जाएगा, तेरा जिंदगी में कुछ नहीं बनेगा, तूने अभी तक 1.5 साल काम किया, तू यंग सा बंदा है, right? I had to convince his dad to allow him to join us. That guy started as an operational executive, lowest ground. Today leads 40% spends on our digital marketing. He started an ops, came to business development, went to product management, and finally took up digital marketing, because every time we didn't have anyone to take care of it, he said, I will take care of it. We hired this investment banker, and think about it, and ये हम story कल ही बात कर रहे थे इसके बारे में. I get a call, early days, अभी Sequoia का पैसा बैंक अकाउंट में हिट नहीं किया था, but we had started expanding a bit, so थोड़ी salaries भी थी, so every money was super tight. And I think this guy calls me from Noida, and he said कि सर आपने मेरे कोई 10-15 हज़ार रुपये देने हैं. मैंने कहा किस चीज़ के पैसे? मतलब आई वुड काउंट एवरी पेनी ऑन माई नोटबुक. एक्सेल में क्यों, मैं हर चीज़ मेरे हाथ में है, हर पैसे का हिसाब है मेरे पास. आप मेरे से 15,000 मांग रहे हो या कुछ 10,000 मांग रहे हो, सम अमाउंट. ही सेड सर वो नोएडा में आपने वो करवाई थी ना, ये जो इलीगल बोर्ड्स लगवाते हैं जो सड़क पे है ना, वो जो उतार लेती है एमसीडी, जो आप छोटे छोटे बोर्ड्स नहीं लगाते हो आपके पास ये डिवाइडर्स में, तो आपने कहा नोएडा में आपने लगवाए थे. तो मैंने कहा हाँ वो लगवाए तो थे, बट वो लगे ही नहीं. कहते नहीं सर वो लग गए, ये पिक्चर्स भेज दी मैंने आपको व्हाट्सएप पे, आप देख लो. एंड आई लुक्ड एट पिक्चर्स, वो ही हैड पुट लाइक आई डोंट नो 100 बोर्ड्स. आई वाज लाइक आपने कब लगवाए? सर आपने वो नया बंदा हायर किया था अमर्स ने, वो आपके साथ मेरे साथ कल रात को 10 बजे हम शुरू हुए थे, दिस इज जनवरी, और सुबह 4 बजे तक हमने 404 छोटा हाथी में बैठ के लगा दिए. एंड आई वाज लाइक, आई सेड अमर यू डिडंट टेल मी दिस. ही सेड यार हर्ष हमने परसों डिस्कस किया था, लगा दिया. Now think about it, that guy, IIM grad, top of the house, gold medalist kind of person, ex-investment banker, only wore suits in his life to office ever, goes to Noida, travels in in the cold of the summer and does this. Again, today that guy is backbone of our ops and supply. हिंदुस्तान में कोई ऐसा शहर नहीं है जो उस बंदे ने जाके लॉन्च नहीं करेगा. I'll tell you another story of this gentleman. Lockdown. Pristyn's business, PM Modi came on national television and he said कि यार elective surgery, elective is non-emergency surgeries, बंद कर दो, because of course hospitals were in short supply, especially in Delhi NCR, and of course everywhere in the country, but genuinely a lot of places. He said non-emergency surgeries, elective surgeries बंद कर दो, and our business went down 70%. and we had just started expanding. We had given 200 job offers. Till date in Pristyn, our ethos is never fire anyone. If you've hired them and you can't afford them, never fire them, grow out of it. And we said यार 200 लोग हायर कर लिए, जॉब ऑफर्स दे दिए, अगले महीने सब ज्वाइन कर जाएंगे, तो हम सैलरी कैसे देंगे? एंड अब बिजनेस तो 70% नीचे चले गए. So we found out that everybody needs sanitizers and masks. And Amazon, Flipkart had shut down. So there's this individual, fresh out of Ola. He had spent 6 years at Ola, his first job, young guy, comes to Pristyn. And he says, Harsh, मैं sanitizer mask खोज लाऊंगा. तो मैंने कहा भाई तू कहाँ से लेके आएगा? वो कह रहे कि जहाँ मैं रहता हूँ वहाँ पे एक बंदा रहता है जिसका एक रिश्तेदार गाजियाबाद में कहीं तो रहता है, तो उसने मुझे कुछ कुछ बताया है, आई विल गेट यू दीज मास्क टुमारो मॉर्निंग. नेक्स्ट डे इन लॉकडाउन, यू नो इन लॉकडाउन देयर हैज नॉट बीन अ सिंगल डे आई हैव नॉट बीन इन ऑफिस. सबसे पहले वो फेस शील्ड और 2 मास्क और ग्लव्स पहन के जाते थे, फिर फेस शील्ड उतर गई, अब मास्क भी उतर गया. एक भी दिन प्रिस्टीन केयर का ऑफिस बंद नहीं हुआ. आई हैव बीन, माय को-फाउंडर्स हैव बीन टू ऑफिस एवरी सिंगल डे बिकॉज वी हैड टू सर्वाइव आवर कंपनी. Next day, 10 o'clock in the morning, he comes to me with boxes of these 3-ply masks. तो उस ज़माने में उस दिन तब ना 10 रुपये में बेचते थे मास्क, आज 1 रुपये बिकता है. तो फ्लिपकार्ट अमेजोन बंद हो गए थे. इसे कि हम हर्ष इसको बेचते थे. तो हमने कहा ठीक है. हमने जितने हमारे फ्रेंड्स थे, जितने हमारे एम्प्लॉयज़ थे, उन सबकी सोसाइटीज़ में फ़ोन किया और उनसे पूछा आपको तो नहीं चाहिए, आपको तो नहीं चाहिए, आपको तो नहीं चाहिए. Turns out every society needed masks. Everyone needed masks. Think about it. March of 2020, everybody needed sanitizers and masks. तो मैंने कहा तू लेके कैसे आया? कहता मैं रात को जाके वो गाजियाबाद फरीदाबाद की फैक्ट्री के बाहर जाके सो गया था मेरी गाड़ी में. सुबह जैसे ही गाड़ी खुली सबसे पहले मैंने मास्क ले लिया उसे 6 बजे. Now think of that freaking guy. This was not on his job expectations. And he comes to the office. 7 days flat. We sold 50 lakhs. और उस टाइम हमारी कंपनी का रेवेन्यू होता था 4 करोड़ रुपया महीना. वी वर वेरी यंग. 50 लाख रुपए के मास्क हमने बेचे 7 दिन में, सिर्फ मास्क. और फ्लिपकार्ट अमेजोन बंद था, कोई डिलीवर नहीं कर सकता था. हम लोगों के घर जा जाके सैनिटाइजर मास्क डिलीवर की. हमने टिपिकल स्टार्टअप शॉपिफाई पे फटाफट से वेबसाइट सेटअप की, फेसबुक पे थोड़ी सी मार्केटिंग की, अपने डेटाबेस को व्हाट्सएप किए, अपनी सोसाइटीज़ में व्हाट्सएप किए, अपने सबको व्हाट्सएप करते रहे, लिंक दे दिया, लोगों ने ऑर्डर डालने शुरू कर दिए. हमने 7 दिन में 50 लाख के मास्क बेच दिए. हमने पहले मास्क बेचे, फिर हमने सैनिटाइज़र बेचा, और फिर अमेजोन फ्लिपकार्ट खुल गया और फिर सारे नुक्कड़ में मास्क मिलने लग गए, तो उसकी ज़रूरत नहीं थी. फिर हमने सैनिटाइज़र स्टैंड बेचना शुरू कर दिया. यू वुड हैव सीन वो पैर वाला स्टैंड, वो जिसमें मास्क. फिर हमने वो बेचना शुरू कर दिया. फिर पीपी किट बेची. 1 साल निकल गया और हमने बीपी मॉनिटर बेचा, फिर ऑक्सीमीटर बेचा. 1 year later वी रियलाइज कि यार हम, एंड ऑफ कोर्स our business came back, everything started going well. हमने कहा यार हमने ई-कॉमर्स कैपेबिलिटीज बिल्ड कर ली हैं, तो हम एक अपना ई-कॉमर्स ब्रांड लॉन्च कर देते हैं. अब D2C तो बिल्ड कर लिया. So that individual and another individual, 2 young guys who were doing all this while, they said we will start a company inside Pristyn. A year ago we launched this brand called Beat XP. Today the revenue of that company is 200 crore annually in 1 year. I could have never written in my business plan that we will ever build, and we are going to launch 2 of our massive products in the next 2 months. We could have never written in our business plan कि हम लोग ऐसा कोई स्टार्टअप करेंगे. It comes from those 2 individuals. So hire and work with all of these folks are super smart. That's the only lesson from me. That's the culture. You hire them, culture अपने आप बनने लग जाएगा, क्योंकि आप लोग ही वैसे हायर कर रहे हो जो कल्चर बना रहे हैं. फिर आपको कल्चर बनाने की जरूरत नहीं है. Lead from the front, of course. So if I'm expecting them to go out in Ghaziabad and deliver, I am also going there. पुलिस के डंडे हमने खाए. हर रोज पुलिस स्टेशन जाता था मैं, क्योंकि रोज सेक्टर 44 में हमारा ऑफिस था, ऊपर ये गुड़गांव में, और सारा सेक्टर 44 बंद होता था. रोज पुलिस आती थी. फिर हमें बोलते थे हम हेल्थ केयर हैं, हम सैनिटाइजर मास्क डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं. तो वो हमसे, फिर वो कहते थे यार फिर तो पुलिस की भी सेवा करो. तो हम पुलिस को भी देते थे, उनको भी चाहिए होते थे, जेन्युइनली एंड इन द राइट स्पिरिट. बट सो हायर द राइट पीपल. बस एक ही लेसन है मेरे पास, बाकी सब मेहनत करो.
That's phenomenal. I think all of those stories are just testament to the fact that you have to go beyond your way and just ensure you hire those people, also convincing them. You have to have that inside you and make it happen.
हिंदुस्तान में और कुछ ना मिले, ये पागल लोग मिल जाते हैं मेहनत करने के लिए, genuinely. ये सबसे बड़ा एडवांटेज है हमारा. इतनी population है यहाँ पे, and there are enough people who want to just do phenomenal things in their lives, and many times they don't know the direction. You get them along, get them in your mission, and you see they will fly. Those two individuals are going to go out as entrepreneurs, build that company on their own. They have become the founders.
Lovely. And that's very, very helpful to know, and I think just reinforces the belief in the room that if so many people can, you can, then many of us in the room can also. I think in terms of questions, that was me, but we'd love to make this interactive. Yes, please, we have a hand already.
Why does a cosmetic company build on the internet when Lakme and everyone, Garnier and everybody have been around for ages? Why does a Chayos is required when we can drink tea at home, right? The answer to that is you build a service or a product which solves a need and do it better than anybody else. Do it 10x better. You actually don't need, and think about Akasa Air, right? Why is Akasa Air started? हमारे पास जहाज़ों की कमी है क्या? लेकिन Akasa Air फिर भी शुरू हुआ, the guy from Indigo, right? If you build a service or a product and do it either a need which is not served, दो kind of धंधे होते हैं. एक need है, Ola जब build हुआ, Ola actually is also not a good example. Internet is an example, right? Internet जब build हुआ, तो there was no way to connect to the audience and connect to the entire World Wide Web, right? Then there is Ola, a business like Ola. Cab तो पहले भी लोग लेते थे, taxi तो पहले भी लोग लेते, but they made that experience 10x, right? And then they got so big, so vast that nobody else could compete with them. But they made that experience 10x better. So when we started our business, Apollo hai, of course everybody else, and all these are phenomenal industry folks. There was something we realized, that the patient experience was fundamentally broken in the non-emergency care market. ये जितने भी tertiary बड़े hospitals हैं, they largely focus on in the to be less jargonic, tertiary care, right? Slightly serious surgeries. None of them is focusing deeply on non-emergency surgery. So it is done by single specialist doctors running nukkad clinics. So our competition was not them. Our competition was a doctor who has a clinic and goes to a hospital or has his own small hospital. We said, can we improve this experience 10x? And I think by doing these journey steps right from the insurance approval, right from the cab ride, right from the admission, right from doctor consult, we are the biggest metric we track inside Pristyn is कि patient और doctor ने first consult में 20 minute बात किया कि नहीं, right? Think about all of you have been to doctors. How many times you have felt that you visited a doctor and they didn't even explain what was wrong with you? बस दवाई लिख के दे दिया. That little insight, we talked to our patient and said, what is your problem? They said, हमें समझ ही नहीं आता बीमारी क्या है, हमें समझ ही नहीं आता what is wrong with us, why are we going through this? When my mom needed a hysterectomy and I took her to a gynecologist, he said, your mom has a prolapse, hysterectomy कर लेते हैं. I was like, you are telling me you will remove a part of my mom's body, like think about it, in front of me, and not even telling me why and is it safe or not. Please tell me what's going wrong. They didn't explain that to us. So we have a metric which tracks this. So improving everything during the journey, 10x has allowed us, to create a valuable experience. So that's one. Second, building the business efficiently is very important, because we didn't want to build it in only Gurgaon, one doctor. We wanted to build it across India. So we from day one started to build efficiencies in the business. That has become our moat, right? When we build business efficiently, somebody came and said, hey, you are building an efficient business on a small scale. How would I give you capital and you build it at a big scale? That became our moat. Then somebody came in and said, looks like you are all non-healthcare folks solving healthcare with technology. Nobody else is doing it. That became our moat. Then somebody came in and said, hey, by the way, you can build this business to even a small town where Apollo is not going. You can go to a Ranchi, you can go to a Guwahati, you can go to a Coimbatore, maybe Coimbatore is still a large town, but maybe a Vijayawada. You can go to, Jhansi, you can go to Siliguri, because your business model allows you to build an asset-light business profitable. That became our moat. So serving the patient 10x better, building efficiencies in the business, building a lot of technologies, they all kept becoming our mode. And of course, now a brand has become bigger. So even now there are 10 copycats who are trying to do exactly the same thing. It doesn't bother us. Super, super, super hard. But that means it's a challenge, right? So we started, the question, if others couldn't hear, is how do you build trust surgeries? Like the last thing you would want to do to your body. It's not even taking a dolo for a khansi zukam. So how do you build trust? So that goes back to the question, right? We had to build it 10x better. So we said, how do we create, to your point, trust? We said we are targeting a kind of audience who is aware and can use an internet. 700 million लोग हिंदुस्तान में internet use करते हैं. When they go online on the internet, when they go search, how can we create content which is original, which is honest, which is deep? First point of trust. Then when they reach out to us, how can we create second level of trust? So rather than asking them to come to the clinic, we gave them a care coordinator. Like every patient in Pristyn gets a dedicated care coordinator who will help you throughout the journey. Even before you met the doctor, he or she will answer all your questions, clear all your doubts, even tell you the kind of procedure, the post-surgery recovery, potential risks, pricing, insurance, everything even before you met the doctor. Second level of trust. Then when they come and meet us in the clinic, how do you have a clinic which is clean, neat, accessible? Third level of trust. They come and meet the doctor. How do you create trust with the doctor? Hire the best, hire the expert, bring that quality. Tell the patient that this is a guy or a girl or a gentleman or a female or lady who has been in the field for 20 years, has done 10,000 surgery. This is the experience. Fourth level of trust. Train the doctor. When you talk to the patient, explain them. There's a funny incident happened. One of our patients in those early days came all the way from Germany. He's an Indian patient. He had a ailment. He came from Germany to get a. So he spoke to us from Germany. He searched on the internet, found us, found some content. He spoke to us and he said, my insurance in Germany doesn't provide for this, so मैं हिंदुस्तान आके कराऊंगा. It's cheaper for me to come and take a flight, get a surgery done, go back. It is more expensive there. So Indian healthcare can do wonders, by the way. So he comes to the clinic at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I was there and my co-founder had gone for the morning surgery. So he was a surgeon, he had come to meet him. So again, 1-2 patient आते थे, तो मैंने कहा ये तो patient चले जाएगा. सर्जरी 8 से 9 होनी थी और 9 बजे डॉक्टर साहब ने आना था. मेरे को लगा था patient आधा घंटा लेट आएगा, patient तो damn time पे आ गया. So I went in and I sat with him in the chamber and I started explaining him. I said, so what's your disease? He said, this is my ailment. I said, okay, this is your body part. This is the part which is infected. This is the medical technology we will use. This is how the procedure will work. These are the risks. This is the diet changes. These are the medicines you got to take. You will come in the hospital, stay for a day. These are the tests. These are the reports we'll see, and then you'll get discharged. Then we will check it in 7 days, and if you are doing well, we will give you these medicines, and you will recover, and you can go back to Germany in 10, 20 days, whatever. He said, great, that works. Then I said, okay, now you wait and let me introduce you to somebody else. So I walk out and my co-founder walks in and he says in typical language, हाँ जी सर बताइए आपको क्या तकलीफ है? मैंने मुझे डॉक्टर हर्ष ने सब बता दिया है, मेरे को बताओ सर्जरी कब करोगे? And he says like कौन डॉक्टर हर्ष? यहाँ पे कोई डॉक्टर है, डॉक्टर वैभव कपूर है, डॉक्टर हर्ष नहीं है, right? That's how the care coordinator concept came in, that we can really help the patients even before they met the doctor. So doctor consult or the OPD became next level of trust. Then insurance. Insurance is a huge pain point. Then pricing. We are the only institution in the country now, of course a lot of people are trying that, who told the patient this will be price of your surgery. Even before, have you ever heard कि किसी ने आपको बता दिया होगा अस्पताल का बिल कितना आएगा? Even you are sitting in the OPD said, this is the surgery cost and if it goes over, we'll take care of it. You don't have to pay. But this is your surgery cost. Another level of trust. Then we told them that during the day of the surgery, we'll pick you from home. Another level of trust. So we built so many of these loops, which in traditional healthcare don't exist. Do you think when you go to hospital, you get a care coordinator? No. Do you get picked up from home? No. Does anybody clear your insurance or tell you about the pricing? No. Does anybody get your admission? No. Does anybody, explain you about the risks? Maybe in detail to some extent, yes, but many times no. Does anybody fight with your insurance company or your bill to make sure if it's in order? No. How many times you get discharged while you are in the room? No. How many drops you? Does anybody drop you home? No. So by creating these transparency and trust loops, we were able to cross that gaps. But even today, I think we have a journey to go, because as you rightly said, it is a hard battle. Still a lot of patients don't trust us. Then we created second opinion. As we started growing in doctors, said if you meet a doctor, if you are not convinced, meet a second doctor in the ecosystem, right? Another level of trust. अब वो उसको लग रहा है चाहे दोनों डॉक्टर सेम अस्पताल के हैं, डिजिटल हॉस्पिटल, एटलीस्ट दोनों डॉक्टर तो लगे हैं, दोनों से अलग क्वेश्चन पूछ सकता हूँ. Another level of trust. So we kept building these trust loops all throughout, but that's what we've been doing. See, selling surgery, मैं मोबाइल फोन तो बेच नहीं रहा. आप सोचिए एक बात, आप even when you are going to a restaurant, you go to Zomato and you check ratings, or you order on, when you try to buy on Amazon, you see कितने number of reviews हैं. So when somebody goes for a surgery, right, it's not that I tell them you need a surgery and you'll go for it. An average patient meets 3 doctors to go for a surgery, right? And we are normally the third doctor. Whenever a patient comes to us, they have 2 or 3 prescriptions, right? That's one. Second, every doctor in Pristyn is trained in a particular manner, that what to say, what to avoid, and how to make sure they never cross the line. Third, the doctor is under an oath and a risk of losing his practice for life. Unlike you and me, if they lose that license, they can never function. Third, we created EMRs. Entire prescription is done in the EMR, where we now know what the doctor is prescribing, what the patient's symptoms are. So now we have built smart system that 35-year-old patient suffering from this disease, these are the symptoms, this is his vitals, surgery suggested or not by the doctor, yes or no. We can predict that based on all the patterns, because we've done like 2 lakh surgery, right? Now the doctor knows कि मैंने एक तो prescription online बनाई है तो मैं झूठ नहीं लिख सकता, ये तो जिंदगी भर के लिए अब तो छप गया है. ऊपर से अगर मैंने symptoms लिखे कुछ और surgery suggest कर दिया, तो इनका algorithm पकड़ लेगा, right? फिर हमारे peer, and of course there are a lot of medical things, but it's a tough challenge, and I hope we are not making mistakes, but there are a lot of medical ways to do it, but there are also a lot of technology which we are using to solve this problem. But tough challenge as it is. See guys, we are, and I love the way Amazon thinks and some of these inspirational companies think, right? We are very, very, very internally focused, and it's hard to say. It's hard to practice, by the way. You can get digressed from that path. We are so internally focused that every time we look at improving, हमें अपने अंदर की इतने metrics हम बनाते हैं, इतनी सारी inefficiencies पता हैं, that we are just focusing on improving on that, and we don't care about anybody else. See, the idea is, Hindustan में 43 million elective surgeries happen in a year. 43 million. Today, Pristyn is 0.01% market penetration, and we've done very well. Even if we do 1% market penetration, we'll be probably, I don't know, what, $30-40 billion or $3 billion in revenue. Massive. There's a massive market out there, right? So we are not worried about our competitors, copycats, अंदर से निकल के आ रहे हैं. हम जो गलतियां कर रहे हैं वो भी वही कर रहे हैं. हम जो गलती करते हैं वो भी वो करते हैं. हम जो अच्छा करते हैं वो हमारी तरह करने की कोशिश करते हैं. But they are always behind. They are on our tail. We are looking ahead and we are looking within. So we are very, very little competitor focused. Many have come, many have failed. Many have acquired people from our company at 3 times the salary. They go, they come back. Sometimes we take them back, sometimes we don't take them back. But all of them don't understand one thing. For them, it is one more service for them. This is the only freaking thing for us. We are super sure कि हमने कुछ और नहीं करना, हमने सिर्फ सर्जरी केयर करना है और अमेजिंग बिल्ड करना है. सो हम लोग दिन रात वही सोचते रहते हैं. वो लोग बहुत सारी चीज़ें और सोचते हैं और फिर सर्जरी के बारे में सोचते हैं. हम सिर्फ सर्जरी के बारे में सोचते हैं. एंड सो वी आर सो इनेटली फोकस्ड दैट रादर देन थिंकिंग ऑफ कंपेटिटर्स, कॉपीकैट्स. मैं क्वेश्चन सोचता नहीं हूँ सर, इसलिए मेरे पास आंसर नहीं है. सोचते ही नहीं उसके बारे में. हम सोचते हैं हम कैसे इंप्रूव करें. यहाँ पेशेंट एक्सपीरियंस संडे को डिस्चार्ज 2.5 घंटे की जगह 4 घंटे हो रहा है. मंडे मॉर्निंग को 6 बजे जो पेशेंट का कॉल आया या पेशेंट का कंसर्न आया, वो दिक्कत हो रहा है. रात को 2 बजे किसी पेशेंट को हॉस्पिटल में दर्द हुआ, उसने हमारी हेल्पलाइन को रीच आउट किया या हमारी ऐप पे अलर्ट रेस किया, हमने मिस किया. ये पेशेंट किडनी स्टोन के लिए आया था इमरजेंसी में, एंड वी डिड नॉट हैव अ हॉस्पिटल इन देयर रीजन. दिस डॉक्टर फीडबैक केम इन, देन दे सेड डॉक्टर डिड नॉट एक्सप्लेन मी वेल, right? This is a market in, let's say रांची जहाँ पे हमारी हॉस्पिटल क्वालिटी अच्छी नहीं है, या दिस इज अ पेशेंट हु took 50 days to recover versus 20 days or 25 days. So हमारे पास तो इतनी सारी इंटरनल चीजें करने के लिए कि ये सब क्रॉस भी नहीं करते हमारे माइंड में. वी आर नॉट इन पर्सनलाइजेशन बाय द वे, वी आर इन स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन. हम लोग टू बी वेरी हम शादी नहीं करा रहे कि आपके हिसाब का गोलगप्पा लगाएंगे. हमारे को सर्जरी करना है और हमें इंश्योर करना है कि ये हमें पता है these 25-30 steps are there. We want to standardize everything, right? So we are not in personalization. There's nothing personalized. It's standardized. I think to the more important question you asked was that as you grow, as you scale, how do you remain closest to customers? Very hard. As business leaders, abhi, and I'll be honest, yesterday we had a town hall, and a town hall में I had to present something. I presented, and मैं town hall से निकला. तो टाउन हॉल से निकले, हमारे कंपनी का जो इंटरनेट पासवर्ड है वो मेरा फ़ोन नंबर है, तो सबके पास मेरा नंबर पूरी कंपनी में. एंड अ पेशेंट कॉल्ड मी ऑन माई फोन एंड वेंट बिजोक. इतना गाली दिया उसने मुझे, इतना गाली दिया, और मैं बेचारा सुने जा रहा हूँ. और मतलब एंड द कंसर्न वाज सम डॉक्यूमेंट विच ही समटाइम्स यू नीड सम काइंड डॉक्यूमेंट फॉर टेकिंग अ लीव फ्रॉम ऑफिस, और यू नीड अ प्रिस्क्रिप्शन, कुछ तो मिस हुआ हमारी ऐप में. एंड उसने मुझे इतना गाली दिया. And I was like, sir, मैं अब इसको अभी सॉल्व करूँगा इसको. I got the team involved. So I spoke to him and got the team involved. Made sure कि वो उस टाइम वहीं सॉल्व हो, और I think आधे घंटे में got taken care of. And that guy said, यार, I've never seen something like this where somebody gets involved. And I told them that, he said, are you Harsh? I was like, no, I'm not Harsh. So he said, यार, आप हर्ष को बोलना कि यार आपकी कंपनी में लोग इतने अच्छे से प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करते हैं जब कोई गुस्से से कॉल करे, राइट? So the important thing is you build processes. How do you build this culture where customers are not compromised? Right before this, I was coming from a meeting where we are trying to develop a new channel of customer acquisition, and we had a lot of patient inquiries which had come in, but none of them got converted to a consult. And I had 8 people. I was doing this review, and we had 8-member team, and I was talking to them. I was like, यार, ये इतने सारे पेशेंट्स थे, इनका किसी का भी कंसल्ट नहीं हुआ, क्या प्रॉब्लम है? तो उन्होंने मुझे डेटा प्रेजेंट किया, इसमें से ये डीएनपी हो गया, ये पेशेंट को हमारा क्लिनिक दूर था, उनको ये इन्फॉर्मेशन, दे गिव मी ऑल द रीजन. आई वाज लाइक, हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू स्पोक टू दीज पेशेंट्स? द आंसर वाज 0. वी कैंसल्ड द मीटिंग. आई वाज लाइक, next 5 days you will all speak to 400 plus patients and then come back with the answer. So how do you drive that culture? I'm telling you the culture, then I'll tell you the process. Then we have a way of celebrating patient feedbacks. Whenever somebody goes out of the way and helps a patient out. There was this incident in Bangalore when one of our ground teams was going through a hospital and suddenly realized that there was a patient whose HB hemoglobin level was down and he needed blood. He went in and donated blood. Of course, the surgery didn't happen, but that patient needed HB. His HB levels were down. Now, nowhere in the job resume that was written, right? That's a culture. So we celebrate that story. There was somebody in our in our medical directorate team who helped a patient. In fact, somebody in patient's family in outskirts of Bhopal in a tough Sunday night to drive them to Bhopal, and we are in Bhopal, but we are not in about, I think, 70-80 kilometers ahead, to drive them to the city and get them admitted. So we celebrate those stories. So we have internal Slack channels. We celebrate these stories. Then when we promote people, we have a metric which says patient first. We rate people on patient first and then say, okay, these were the people who went beyond, and served the patients. Then we have, almost like a salary deduction where if a poor patient experience comes in, right? So you create this culture by doing those things. Second, you create metrics. So we have metrics which measure patient feedback. Today we collect NPS, and one of your rooms had Net Promoter Score. So of course, we do digital NPS. So 0 manual intervention. We have an NPS of 60, right? And in healthcare, surgery NPS of 60 is the excellence. The best hospitals in the world have it 80, but beyond 50 is considered extraordinary. Excellence is 80. So our big, hairy, audacious goal is to get to 80. So we measure that metrics. Then we measure patient feedbacks. There's a team in Pristyn which will ensure every patient is spoken to or interacted or feedback collected, after they've come for a consult or a surgery. 82% patients share their feedback with us. Then we have a team which reaches out to patients 60 days post-surgery, right, to ensure that have they fully recovered. That's like the last extreme. And sometimes there are 4 or 5 patients out of thousands we do surgery every month, which is really up since consult is still easier, who have not recovered well. So we reach out to them, we bring them back, without charging them anything for free consult, free dressing and stuff like that. So we built a lot of metrics. We have every team has metrics on patient experience. Then we recently moved to company goal setting, where 60% of the companies has same goals. Entire company. अगर आप technology team में हो, आप finance team में हो, आप HR team में हो, आप admin team में भी हो, आपका patient experience goal है. So all these metrics help you drive in that direction. So there's culture, there's metrics, and then there is simple practices. Anybody who joins Pristyn undergoes like a week-long training where they are shared with patient feedbacks, patient information, and their knowledge. They are then sent to the field to experience a hospital, because hospital सबने देखा होता है, but genuinely surgery, patient, admission, ज़्यादा लोगों को नहीं पता होता, including मुझे भी नहीं पता था कभी. So हम सबको ground पे भेजते हैं. इनफैक्ट सीनियर लोगों को तो डंडा मार के भेजते हैं, क्योंकि अगर आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करना है तो आप पहले ग्राउंड पे जाइए, फिर आप हमें कोई बात बोलिए. और कभी कभी आई कैन बी लिटिल रूड समटाइम्स. कोई पेशेंट के बारे में कोई आंसर बोल देता है जिसने आज तक ग्राउंड पे देखा नहीं. ही हैज़ नो राइट. Anybody who has not spoken to X number of patients on being on the ground can give zero opinion, चाहे वो कंपनी का SVP क्यों ना हो. और I think we are very blunt in our conversation. तो हम बोलते हैं सर आपने या मैम आपने कभी पेशेंट से बात की नहीं है, आप अपना ओपिनियन अपने पास रखिए. You have no right to share the opinions. So building the culture, building the metrics, and then doing these kind of practices, and like I said, creating that place where anybody can reach out to you just helps us. I mean, there are more ways, but I think these come to the top of my mind. One of my colleagues, ex-colleagues from UC came up to me and said, "Harsh, मैंने जिंदगी में 1 साल निपटा लिया है, मैं 1 साल स्टार्टअप करूँगा, नहीं होएगा, I'll go back to my job." मैंने कहा यहाँ पे 3 बार डिवोर्स होते होते बचा है, तुम 1 साल में करके वापस भाग जाओगे. सो यू कांट हैव अ प्लान बी. इफ यू आर डूइंग अ स्टार्टअप, यू आर डूइंग अ स्टार्टअप. देयर इज नो ऑप्शन. ऐसे 10 वाइट बोर्डिंग, वैसे मैंने पहले 3 स्टार्टअप में बहुत वाइट बोर्डिंग किया. हिंदुस्तान में कौन सी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, राइट, कौन सी बड़ी इंडस्ट्रीज है, ये हम सब करते हैं. फिर हम दूसरा चीज बोलते हैं, अच्छा मुझे क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम है. अब मेरे को तो सर्जरी प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी ना यार, मुझे क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम है, ये मैंने भी गूगल में पढ़ा है सब. इट डजंट वर्क. लक कन्विंस किया ही नहीं, उसका पागलपन मेरे जितना ही है. That's where you need, and never start a company with somebody you don't know. It is a hard reality. It is, you have to have. Problem पता क्या होता है? And very honestly, and we were sharing this yesterday. Last 6 months, we went through the toughest journey personally, personal turmoil, toughest, because the 3 of us were in different directions. Right? We started thinking differently on different things. And we felt कि मुझे लग रहा है कि ये कुछ हैंडल कर रहा है और अच्छे से नहीं कर रहा, तो मैं जाकर उसे सजेशन ही नहीं देता था. मुझे लगा छोड़ यार, मैं अपना करता हूँ, मुझे ये सॉल्व करना है. अगर हम कोई चीज़ साथ में बिल्ड कर रहे हैं तो उसमें रूम में बात ही नहीं हो रही है. We went through that difficult period of literally being on, founder split is the biggest reason for startup failure. Biggest reason. आप कभी ये भी गूगल करिए, ये भी दिखेगा आपको. So choose your co-founders super carefully, because we have a 30-year-old relationship. हम रूम में लड़ाई कर सकते हैं, एक दूसरे को माँ बहन की गाली दे सकते हैं, फिर भी साथ में आके साथ में काम कर सकते हैं. So I didn't have to convince him. I think, like I said, luck plays a part. I think he was as mad as I could be when we discussed openly about the thought and the idea. It was like, ये तो करना बनता है यार, करते हैं. So maybe it is luck, I don't know. But all my founders have been like that. Every time, and I failed 3 times, but all of them are super close friends now, and like I said, doing amazing things. I had to never convince. If you have to convince your founder, तो आप पहली बैटल हार गए हो, तो आप गलत आदमी से बात कर रहे हो. So don't do that. Don't convince. Share your idea. If the person gets excited, get them to experience what you're saying. If they get more excited, that's it. He already knew about all this. So when I found out these and started searching, I couldn't sleep. And I found out that when we talked about this, he said, "Yaar, I think it just makes so much sense," and he was just equally excited about it. So I didn't have to make that effort. I'm sorry if that sounds fortuitous, but reality.
Awesome. Thanks for that question.
Do all by yourself if you can't find a founder. It's okay. Start alone. If you don't find it's genuinely helpful when you have 2 people. Best founder teams are 2 or 3 people. More than that, it helps. It's a tough journey. It's very lonely. It helps. But having a wrong co-founder is the worst thing. Never have it. वो 90% फेलियर ही होगा. तो उसको 4 महीना सैलरी नहीं मिलेगी, 6 महीना मूवी जाने को नहीं मिलेगा, 1 साल सैटरडे नाइट एंजॉय करने को नहीं मिलेगी, वापस भाग जाएंगे वो. सो नहीं होगा वो.
Awesome. Thanks for that question. I think in the last 90 minutes, we've heard a lot of stories, Harsh, and thank you for that. I think for me, the common takeaway has been the hunger, the passion, the humility, and the fact that we can all do it if you can. Can we have a huge round of applause for Harsh Singh, the co-founder of Pristyn Care?
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for being a great audience.
Thank you, everyone.